Alright, welcome to ADHD and Crochet. I am the Yarnaholic, and today we are going to be sewing together a couple of projects I have. This first one is a Diablos from Monster Hunter. As you can see, I've already crocheted most of it together and sewn the head bits together, but we're going to be putting the rest of it together today. So with this channel, I intend to pretty much just kind of yap at you guys while I sew things together. I don't intend to really crochet on screen very much, if at all. But I plan to offer tips and tricks for various things. I'm not a tutorial channel. I don't intend to be. And half the time I'm probably just going to be yapping about various other things. As you can see, I've also got a cat. This is Bean. Say hi to the camera, Bean. She's my little helper, or so she thinks. Anybody who's got cats will be aware of that. I do have 4 cats. You will probably eventually see them. But this is Bean. She's my most friendly, most involved. As you can see with her tail. Now, normally I would suggest pinning this together, but since this is a weird shape, sometimes that gets a little difficult. Oh, I lost my string. Definitely pay attention to that. Having a cat tail in the way does not help usually, but it is entertaining. I don't always like using pins for the things that I'm sewing together. Sometimes it's easier to have it be able to be moved a little bit. Especially when it's in these tight angles. So I can move it around a little bit. But this does run the risk of it being off-center, and not in proper proportion. I do want to make note that I did not make this pattern, just the creature. Most of the patterns that I will be sewing together, having done, will not be my own. I will make mention if they are my own. But most of these patterns can be found on Etsy, Ravelry, or just somewhere online. This particular one was made out of blanket yarn, so it is rather bigger than what the pattern initially called for. I quite enjoy crocheting, but it does not like me back. That's why I have these gloves. These are compression gloves, and I strongly recommend wearing them if you're going to get into any arts and craft project that requires your hands to be in pretty much the same position during the entirety of the project. Whether it be knitting, crocheting, or even sewing. I also recommend finding some stretches for your hands and wrists so that you don't hurt yourself. So we are only a couple stitches away from having the head fully attached to the body now. And here is the last stitch of that part. So now I'm just going to kind of hold it so it's a little bit lopsided. So what we can do here is make some bigger stitches in specific spots around the back of the head and the body to help stabilize the head where we want it to do. And we do want to sew it kind of tight. You can kind of do this on any project. And there we go. Now it'll sit tight. So now we can go ahead and fasten off and remove our string here. So I'm going to make a little knot. Then we're going to weave it in. Oop, throwing things. And cut the excess. So now we've got the head attached to the body. Now we can attach the arms So I've got some various pieces here. I've got arms and legs. Looks like I need to stuff the arms still. So I've got some stuffing. I always break it apart. And I've got a stuffing stick. So we'll just take a little bit here, put it right into there, and push it down with a stick. And we'll just do that repeatedly until the arm is where we want it to be. Always make sure to feel out the part. Just like so. We want to make sure that it is not overstuffed, but it is the shape we want. Now the fun thing about a Diablos is it is actually a wyvern, even though it generally doesn't fly. Diablos, for anyone who doesn't know, is actually from a game called Monster Hunter by Capcom. Not sponsored. That'd be cool though. And they are herbivores. They live in desert-like areas, and they eat cactus. They're kind of like the rhinoceroses of this universe, meaning they are also rather aggressive for not eating meat. I'm pretty sure they're called Diablos due to their roar sounding like the screams of the damned. A lovely creature, I'm sure, is coming across here. And we're almost done stuffing that second arm. When stuffing your creations, I always recommend putting the stuffing in small amounts, even if you know how much it's actually going to use. That way you can shape them as you go. Alright, so the arms are going to be kind of attached like this. So let's go ahead and start doing so with the first one. So this one, we're going to sew the hole closed while we attach it to the body, like so. This will allow it to still be movable, and it won't stick out like the kid from A Christmas Story who can't put his arms down. I like to go up once and back down again, just to make sure that the stitching is secure. Bless you, Bean. Kitty sneezes are cute. And then to make our little knot, make a little stitch, push through it, and then weave our excess in, and snip snip. So we've attached one arm. So now we want to attach the next arm at about the same spot. So we'll take that, line it up, and lay them on the other side. Double check that it's even, and get started. Sometimes where your stitching lies is in the middle instead of on an edge, and that's okay. And back up again. And now we can make, oh, I lost my string. Now we can tie it off and hide the extra. Make our little knot and weave in the extra. Blanket yarn has a tendency of shedding, but now we have our arms. Let's make it so he can sit upright, and we're going to add on the thighs and the feet. These were also not stuffed, so we're going to go ahead and stuff those. These are small enough that I don't need my stuffing stick. Not every project is going to be small enough for that, and not every project requires a stuffing stick as well. Not every project requires being sewn together either. There are a good number of no-sew projects that are quite nice. This is just not one of those. So as you can see, this is very open, so putting the stuffing in there, it just kind of sits there. So I'm going to just kind of push it in, knead it in, if you will, and then position this where I want it to be, which is going to be right about here. Take our little sewing needle here, thread it through, and then just kind of hold this in place while we sew all the way around. When sewing stuffed animals together, you will have to turn your project repeatedly. Some fun facts about the Diablos in the Monster Hunter universe is that the subspecies of a black Diablos is just a regular Diablos that is a female that has gone into heat. Basically her period. Which makes them more aggressive because hormones are fun that way. And one of the things that bothers me about that is one of the smaller games, more geared towards children, Monster Hunter Stories, is basically Pokemon, but with Monster Hunter monsters, and your character is not a 10-year-old telling creatures what to do, but rather is involved and part of the fighting, which is kind of cool, but also kind of weird. The premise of the game is you run around and you find eggs of these monsters and you hatch them, and then you have these little buddies. And you can actually find and hatch the egg of a black Diablos, and then just permanently have a black Diablos in your party. Which is kind of weird, knowing what a black Diablos is. Sometimes that happens. Luckily, it is in a spot that is just going to be covered anyways. So I'm just going to kind of push that out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and just sew the foot on this side. So we're going to put it like right here. And we're going to sew this on similarly to how we sewed the head to the body. You do generally want to take your time when sewing these things together. There's no rush in art, and that's what these projects really are. Now, I do sell these products. I won't sell every single one that I have available, but over on my Instagram I have quite a few various projects that I've created that are for sale. Some of them are limited items, others are by request. It is only me making these, so if I get a lot of orders, sometimes it can take time. And this isn't my only job. I do have a 9-to-5. Alright, so now we've got one leg finished. So we can go ahead and hide our little string here. Cut that loose. And now let's turn him over. And now I need to find the other one. I don't know where it went. Here's the foot. Technical difficulties. No, there it is. It fell to the floor. In the background over here you may see this creature. This is Yarnaby. He is one of my creations. He's technically for sale, but not for shipping. He's become my little mascot here. And thread our needle. And now we're just gonna make sure that we have this lined up with the other one. That looks about right. So once again, we're gonna just hold it down, hold it in place. And stitch them together. Now as we add parts to this, he kind of becomes bigger and bigger. We still have the tail parts, and the wings. This thing does have wings even though it burrows. The wings attached to the arms because it is a wyvern. I am a nerd, especially for dragons. Difference between a wyvern and a dragon, generally speaking, is that a dragon has 4 limbs to walk on, and then an additional 2 that are the wings. They are separate. A wyvern, the wings are attached to the front limbs, and then it has 2 standard limbs. Now obviously that is subject to change based on the fantasy world that you are looking into, but generally speaking. There's also a bunch of folklore that changes things, so I'm mostly just talking about Western dragons. The Eastern dragon is its own beast. Let's add just a small amount more stuffing to this one. Yes, hi, Bean. She's rubbing against me. Sometimes positioning of your sewing, what you're sewing, will get awkward to hold on to. So just kind of make do with what you have. And I believe this is the last stitch. So we're going to just do one more for good measure, and then in the same spot make our little knot. And then thread it through to hide it. And snip snip. So now we've got our arms and legs. Let's go ahead and add on the main tail. So just kind of your standard dinosaur looking tail for now. It will have like little croissant things on the ends. We're going to start here. So we're going to position it where we want it and make that first attachment stitch nice and tight. Got some stuffing trying to escape. It likes to do that, so we're just going to poke that in there with our stick. Sticks are very helpful. Humans have been using sticks as aid for many, many years. The version of stick has just evolved as we have. In all honesty, this thing would be absolutely horrifying if it was real, and I'm kind of glad it's not. Now, this is not my favorite monster from Monster Hunter. It's actually my least favorite to fight. But it's still very cool to me. And I enjoy making things. And I enjoy making things for my husband. Now, no project that you make is going to be absolutely perfect. You're going to make some mistakes, and that's okay. It gives it character. So in this case, it looks like I've maybe sewn this a little lopsided, but we are going to fix that in a minute. because we have thread and audacity. And when things are fluffy enough, you can't tell the difference anyways. Turn them around so you guys can see them a little better. And what I'm doing. So I'm just basically making another layer of stitches to kind of center the tail just a little bit more. Mistakes are how we learn. And even if you've been doing it for a while, you're still bound to make mistakes, and that's okay. And just to be sure, we're going to double knot this one. And as always, weave in the tail and snip it. So we've got our general tail. We're going to add in these little croissant looking things. There is one on either side, and they're kind of positioned like so. On either side of the end. And this is kind of a weird one because we're putting two round things together without any edges. So something I like to do is just very loose stitches of where everything's going to sit and land, just so I kind of have an idea of where it's going to go. And then when you get to a certain point, you pull it tight. Now you don't want to pull too hard with this, otherwise it will break, as we saw earlier. We don't want to break it, because we've still got like another 1.5 inches to sew on. Since this is a big project, I'm using a big needle. And this is not a sharp needle, obviously it is a big plastic one. But this is a tapestry needle, or amigurumi needle, or whatever you want to call it. It's a fat one. And we've reached the end here. So we're just going to go back and forth. Go back over it, make sure it is secure and not going to go anywhere. In the game, this is one of the hardest parts of the monster's body. One of the mechanics, if you're not familiar, is breaking parts on the monster. And this one's a pain to break, because these ridges right here are very hard and kind of work like a hammer for the monster. Oh, I lost my string. The other hardest part is, of course, the head, as you might expect. And we've got one croissant attached. Now we've just got to attach the other one. first one. Now we, of course, go through. Any weird noises you hear is probably Bean doing things. Doing the Bean things, as she does. She likes to rub on random things and she'll find little things to play with that she's probably not supposed to. But she is a cat, so that is her prerogative. Too far. Sometimes you can go through both parts at once if you turn them just a little bit, like so. It's not possible on every single one, and it does make it harder to pull your string through. But it is a possibility. And just for good measure, just like before, we're going to go back to the beginning. For a little extra security on the project. I think I just pulled through my initial stitch, but that's fine. It's going to happen when you're doing things a little bit blindly. And just for good measure, we're going to add another knot, because I didn't like how that one felt. And then, as usual, weave it in. And snip snip. Alright, so now we've just got the wings to add. We're going to lean him up over here. Oh, I lied. We also have the belly. So we're going to do that first. The belly is going to go right here. Right in the middle here. These are just flat pieces that give it a little more dimension. And you can attach these any variety of ways. You can go around or just kind of in and out around the edge. I'm going to do it the easier way and just go around, because this is supposed to be a body part that is a little more flush to the body. And since we're going around the whole perimeter, our string needed to be quite a bit longer. And it's probably going to be too long, but that's okay. You can always keep your excess string, use it as stuffing for scrap projects, or use it to sew things of the same color. If your string is long enough, you might even be able to work it into another crochet project. Waste not, want not, as the saying goes. Now, we don't really go for perfection here. Otherwise, we'll be here forever. But we can make adjustments as we go along. Some spots are going to be more difficult to sew than others. Are you coming up, Bean? You look like you want it. She's over here staring at me. Are you going to come up and help? Are you going to come say hi? No, you're just going to stare at me. Okay. One thing cats are really good at is staring at you. For little to no reason. They don't want anything. They just want to stare and make you uncomfortable. And one thing string is good at is getting tangled and caught on things while you're working with it. And we are about halfway done sewing the belly on. Again, I would have probably recommended pinning this one in place and making sure it was where you wanted it before stitching it in place. But I forgot to bring my pins in here. And it's fine. Everything is fine. We're going to turn him so that we can get up here under the neck. Detach. When sewing these pieces together, you can't see me, but it is important to make a weird face while you are focusing on a specific stitch. It is imperative to the process. It's going to happen whether you like it or not, so embrace it. Make your faces. Alright, so we are going to work on stretching this piece to where I want it to be by just gradually stitching a little further out each. This will help it lay flat and help it look even with the other side. Working with big projects like this is also a nice arm workout. It's not weight related, but it is movement related. And there we have it. I'm going to do one more stitch in that little corner there. And then we can make our knot. Weave it in. Snip, snip. And then just kind of push that back where it needs to be. There. Now we can do the wings. Alright, we're going to lay him down like that, because that's how he wants to be. So we have our wings here. And I just kind of have to decide how I want these to be attached. I think like that is good. So we're going to detach it from the other one. Detach it from our string here. And I'm going to start by going through here and work my way up a little bit. And we'll work our way back down the arm. Oops. I keep bumping my camera. Earthquake. And I want it to be just going through this tan orange color, not the yellow. So I am trying to be careful of where I'm sticking my needle. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. Because it's not going to be completely attached all the way flush, but it does go most of the way down the arm. I also have to be careful to not attach it to the ridge, which would be very easy to do on accident. I think this is good. So now we can start going back up a little bit. Back closer to the middle here. And then right up here on the top, we're going to make our knot. Weave it in. And snip, snip. So we've got one wing attached. Since I have a little extra string from creation that wants to stick out, so we'll just make that disappear. Magic. Alright. And now we have the last wing. And then we're done. So these videos I intend to do at least one project. If it's a big project like this with a lot of parts, it might take a little while to do. But otherwise I will try to have a few different ones going I crochet all the time. There's hardly a time that I'm not crocheting, if I'm being honest. It is my hobby. It is my favorite pastime. I crochet in the car. I crochet during my downtime with work because I get to work from home. And honestly, if I didn't, I'd probably still bring it to my job for like break and lunch hours, depending on my job. Cat being weird. Eating something she's not supposed to. As cats will do. Oops. Getting stuck. As string likes to do. Got a little excited on that stitch. This one is in a weird position for me, so it is a little more difficult, as I'm also trying not to knock into my camera here. Not trying to make you guys seasick if I can help it. And there we have it. I do have plans for other projects in the future. I'm kind of in the middle of a couple of projects right now, which, pro tip, try not to have more than 2 projects going at a time, otherwise you will overwhelm yourself, and it won't be fun. But I have a lot of projects that I want to do, and I've got 2 that are half finished currently, that I'm currently working on. So as I finish some of those, I will include them in my little series here of ADHD and crochet. But I think that will do it for today. Thank you guys for joining. If you like my content, go ahead and hit that like button. And let me know what you think. If you have any tips of your own, suggestions, things you want to see in the future, I may not listen, but I always like to interact with people. And with that, have a good one.